Hey,
Howdy doody, y'all.
We're back.
Drew. I guess I just want to know, are there any other like live animals that are in danger on the highways these days while you're out there? I want to know. Fill me in real quick.
Rabbits, field mice, gophers, whatever, maybe a bird, whatever happens to scamper across the road in front of me.
So those of you who haven't been staying in touch with Drew's life, just so you know, Drew did hit a deer 2 nights ago, totaled his car 70 miles an hour on I-15. Wah, wah, wah.
It was my first deer kill. First of many.
Man, I mean, Ben, did we get clear on did we get any venison out of that, or did he just leave it on the highways?
You dragged a little bit home with you, right?
I tried to run backwards the last 100 yards and
shove some in his pockets and stuff, something like that.
Scoop up the rack, I don't know.
Oh man, brother. So I mean, we send you out on these coffee elites, I'm saying? I can't have you wrecking your car every time we send you to, what I mean? Like, this is awful.
I'll just get gap insurance from now on. I mean,
yes. So today on Coffee Experts Club, we're going to talk about gap insurance. Oh man, I'm so sorry, man. I will say though, I mean, this is kind of a plug on gap insurance. That definitely is something that saves your bacon when there's the gap between what you bought it for and what it's worth when they total it, right? Like that's what catches it.
I always wondered what that was for.
Yes, it's like somewhere between like $2 and $10 a month or something like that. So it's one of those easy ones where you're just like, I don't need that. Why would I need that? But it catches you right now when you total your car, and insurance is like, so your car, I bought it for $20K and my insurance says it's worth $15K. Gap insurance picks up the difference.
I did not have gap insurance.
My car was only worth like 5 licorice sticks when I bought it. So
hey, but not the smart car, Ben. The smart car is worth more than that.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. I mean, there's not really much to it besides like paper and some plastic wheels.
That's right. Yeah, if you hit a deer, bro, you're riding that Bronco home. You know what I'm saying? You better get used to
that. I don't hit a deer, dude. A deer would hit me, and I would go up on top of the deer and just run off into the woods.
Oh man. Anyway, enough about gap insurance and Drew hitting livestock. So, Coffee Experts Club. Drew, you just wound up your Coffee Experts Elite with Jonathan and the team up at Coffee Republic. Kind of ended it with a bang, but I mean,
literally.
Yeah, literally. But it ended good. You had a great time with those guys. Seemed like super high quality people.
Fantastic time, actually. Really, I mean, I'm a coffee person at this point through and through, and they're the same way. So it's nice to be in like company and, just to learn from the people that I'm around and go back and forth. I mean, we have some in-depth conversations around why we do what we do and how we do it and the way that it's going to affect the people that we're serving. And, that's what I'm all about these days. So, I've had a fantastic time. And I mean, I got a nice solid excuse to stay a few days longer. So no complaints there.
It'll be cool to like, if you go back there in, a year and a half, if they're even, busier than when you left, you get kind of like a little, I imprinted that bit of me in the shop. That's always the fun part.
Hopefully all the races are still there.
I mean, we all know it though, right? Like greases can fall off. I mean, that's part of the jam, right? Is that obviously you're looking for people that are going to stick with you for the long haul, but it doesn't always end up that way. And I mean, some of that can be, internal processes. They're just not, it doesn't come natural to them. Some of that can be personality stuff. I think that, but I think you created a beautiful thing. I think it was really cool for me to roll in and see I walked in on it live, grand openings happening. We've got, David from our team that's there helping out with, being part of the all-stars from our team that was there to help you as Coffee Experts Elite, helping Jonathan's whole team. How many people did you guys end up hiring? How many did you have into play? How'd that all work?
I think we had about 14. Not counting me and John and a couple of family friends. So I think the total working at grand opening the next couple of days, we had about 18. But as far as baristas go, 14. It seemed like the sweet spot too, because now as the dust settles, we're able to kind of plug people in where their strengths are and push people. We want to be pushing the baristas a little bit so they develop their skills. So 14 seemed like a solid number. Out the gate, we're doing, roughly $2,000 days. So 14 baristas is solid at that rate.
Dude, who doesn't want to be out of the gate doing 2K a day? I mean, that's beautiful. Ben, there were stores we opened that weren't doing 2K a day out of the gates. That's for dang certainty.
Not doing 2K out of the gates a year later. I mean,
yeah, we were opening those first stores. It was like you were, scraping and scratching to get like 700 a day.
That's right. You were praying. You're like, we've got to make it to 1,000. Please, God, let's make it to 1,000. Yeah.
That's yeah, out the gate, man. And especially in a sleepy Montana town too. Like, those are great numbers.
Yeah, especially that's a really good point. Yeah.
First thing I thought after I hit that deer was, man, I need a coffee right now. So.
That's what the deer was thinking too, man. That guy was like, what happened? Oh man, that's great though. And I think that the team that you built, like the kids that I met at, we always advocate for doing a grand opening dinner, the night before, like a day or two before. And I think it was just cool to be able to be there for that and just see the crew of kids that you guys had raised up and that, and just the camaraderie already, even though it was so early. I think that that's what you're always dreaming of, right? Is like building a camaraderie. Because I do think that like once you get into the thick of it, I think we had a breakdown like on our first day, right? Like a barista was just like, I don't think I can do this. Like, I think you go through those things. And if you don't have that camaraderie, it's really easy just to, like to short fuses and people getting mouthy in front of the customers. Like that's all the worst things that you could see happen, so.
Well, and there was something, I mean, it was a little bit odd and new to me to just train in a store that, well, first of all, wasn't open and we didn't have the option to even push. I mean, we had our soft opening, but live traffic was kind of sparse through there. So the kids really did get to know each other really well. We spent like almost 2 weeks every single day, a few hours a day together. So it was really nice to be able to pinpoint certain people's weak points and, emphasize other people's strengths so that they could learn off of each other. So the camaraderie was definitely organic. But I think it was helpful that it was constantly like the baristas are a team, and I felt that way, especially because, the push through the grand opening, but because of all that time spent together beforehand.
I think too, I feel like it's cool to be in the middle of different business models too, to see how they roll things out. And like Jonathan and the mayor's family, like they're not new to coffee. They had 2 existing locations in California for over a decade. It's a new town, and like, what do you do when you move to a new town and you have all new people and like you want a resource that you can call out on, somebody that is going to pull through for you. And so I think we were stoked that they reached out to us and wanted us to be a part of that. But I think even in that, as much coffee as we've all done together, I felt like they brought some really cool ideas to the table, things that we had never done before. You want to talk about just a couple of those things, Drew? Like I know.
Sure. The structural difference was insane to me. And I know that might seem like a moot point in coffee, but the way you set up your stand has long-lasting effects on the amount of people you can push through there at any given time, the sustainability of the cleanliness of the stand. There was a point where I asked John, I was like, did you guys design the stand? Because it's so well set up. It's so far ahead of most of the places that I've been in. And they're like, yeah, John's like, yeah, we designed it. Of course we did. So there's a lot to say about the way that they set up the stand, and it's massive. It seems like from the outside, it looks like, they have way too much space, but on the inside, it feels absolutely perfect. And then, I was surprised at the vetting process that he went through to get the baristas. You wouldn't think, and in most places that I've been, there's not a lot of available barista talent, especially for a brand new coffee shop. Generally speaking, you start to build that sort of reputation to attract those types of people as you're open more and more. But out the gate, I think if it had to do with his interviewing process or maybe the way he pitches ads or things like that, he got a solid group of people right out the gate, and of course ads. So they worked really closely with the radio station, and just local people still listen to the radio here in good old Montana. It's actually pretty common. most other places, I do like maybe a YouTube targeted ad or maybe Instagram or something like that. The radio was super effective here. So knowing your clientele base and their habits ahead of time, going into it, I think it gave us a huge advantage up here.
The thing I love the most, that small thing, is that freaking overhang, the covering on the drive-through. Like every coffee shop I've seen has this dinky little like small covering, or it's probably because they get so much snow there. Or like on a lot of the shops that we were at, it's like if it's raining, like you're kind of like trying to stay away from it. But that covering, I was just like, that's so smart. Just cover the whole thing. The customer doesn't have to worry about getting soaked when their windows open. They don't have to constantly be rolling their windows up and down. You can talk to them. I was like, it's not a small thing, but it's something you don't think of that just made the customer's life at that drive-through window so much better. I was like, man, What a great idea.
But and I mean, we always struggled. I mean, I always struggled. We had instances of tip jars getting stolen. So with that big overhang, they just have it bolted down to the window, the serving shelf. Which, I mean, we talked about in the past ones. I was like, oh, it'll fill up with snow, it'll fill up with rain. It'll, you know, it's that just obviously the canopy does away with that entirely.
Yeah. It's definitely a powerful thing. And then Drew, even things like, I know you know, we've got some, we're going to talk about it a little bit today, but some other, you know, your next venture is taking you out of the country, which is our first time, you know, going out of the country to do a coffee experts elite and do some setup stuff, which is pretty rad. But even some of the ways that they were handling their, was their syrups? What was it they were doing different? Like with the.
Yeah. So as a, you know, as a new business, especially in a small town, you're going to have a lot of businesses trying to sell to you. And you can definitely use that to your advantage. And the more you play into that, probably the more competitive pricing you're going to get. Something that they kind of struggled with up here was not getting a Tarani rep. And Tarani, as we all know, is one of the biggest competitors in the coffee game for syrups and sauces. So John kind of leaned into that a little bit, but there wasn't a lot of options up here and the options were really expensive. And so he actually made pretty good friends with the local restaurant supply store, which, needing the Tarani or not, is a fantastic idea to build that reputation with somebody, especially a mom and pop shop who not only has maybe the capacity because they're mom and pop, they don't service a lot of, you know, big companies, but just, you know, the willingness to work with you and make deals with you, and you're gonna boost them as much as they're going to help you out. And so, you know, he developed a relationship with them, and he's been ordering almost all his Tarani syrups through them. Exclusively. And the response, you know, it's mom and pop, so they're responsive, they're personal, they're there, they want to support. So that relationship's huge. Another thing was we struggled to get a certain type of milk, a certain specific chocolate milk that, you know, is magic. In my humble opinion, it's better than most chocolate milk. So we had to not only work with multiple vendors like US Foods or Cisco or local milk companies, but we basically cleaned out all the stores up here as well. And so making relationships with, like, say, a Walmart or Albertsons or Super One Foods, and having them bump up, you know, their inventory on that one specific supply, because I mean, you know, they're going to be making money off you either way. So making a deal where they're going to be consistently making money off of you is a good way to you know, make a solid business friendship grow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think just little tricks in the trade, little things that were, you know, suggestions. I know last week you guys met with Jarek. I wasn't around, but you guys met with Jarek from Swig, and then there was some good stuff even that came out of that. Like, it sounded like you guys had some conversations. Do you guys have any of the take homes from there that you guys felt like would be good for us to crack open at all? Just any of the highlights?
Yeah, I think one of the things that Jarek mentioned is just how much busier they are, because it was a pre-existing business that they took over, business and location. How much busier they are now out the gate than that previous business was, because he was working with them for a while. And I think it sort of goes to show that if you have a good structural system in place for your baristas and for your product, it does so much. You may not be able to notice it, but it creates so much momentum. That those customers start realizing that, oh, this is an established business. Oh, they know what they're doing. Oh, the baristas actually care about me, especially on the barista front. When you have an organized shop with an organized sort of managerial structure, the barista goes, okay, I'm not walking the chaos every day. The barista's not always like, I don't know where anything is. I don't know if we have that. It's just, I don't know.
Right.
You start giving your baristas and your customers some sense of like, knowing and I guess consistency is what it is. Consistency and reliability. It's crazy how quickly those customers go, oh shoot, I should go to that place now. And you can take your sales from dropping, flip them on their head, and all of a sudden your sales are shooting up. And it sounds like that's what Jarek's doing right over there. So kudos to him for that.
And something else I noticed too is kind of along those same lines, is the more that you kind of come at it seriously, the more the baristas will come at it seriously. And, you know, the big word is discipline, and, you know, not necessarily in the negative connotation, but when Jarek comes into it with a disciplined mindset, whereas it's been run before kind of like a hobby, the baristas are going to come at it more professionally as well. And it does bleed into the effect of, you know, customer experience at the window, which is the magical spot. Everything happens at that window. So Jarek taking it super seriously and cutting down into those really minute details, because that's where the magic happens. It kind of grows into the big picture, the overall experience for everybody involved. And I'm assuming Jarek himself can probably sense a huge difference from when he started to to today.
Yeah,
It's
so those
awesome.
customers. Oh no, go ahead, Darren.
No, I was just saying that's awesome. Grab it.
I was gonna say just in the fact that the customer can rely on the fact that they're gonna get the same drink twice in a row. So a lot of those hobby shops of the owner, they start a coffee shop, they're not really in it, they don't really know what they're doing. It's more of like, I've got extra money to spend, I want to retire early. They don't really realize that, like, if I go through a drive-through and I get a hot vanilla latte and it tastes okay, and the next time I go through it tasted all right, I'll get another one. I'm like, this tastes like crap. Like, I'm not gonna go back. You got 2 shots to get me to come back, and you screwed it up. So if you're consistent and you're paying attention, and like you said, Drew, you're disciplined and you're serious about your business, serious about every cup going out being the exact same every time, then all of a sudden the customers go, okay, I can rely on this shop to give me what I need every morning at 6 a.m. as I'm driving to work. If I can't rely on you at 6 a.m. when I'm going to work, I'm just going to skip you because I need somewhere. I got to be somewhere.
That's really good. I think too, for continuity for your next shop, right? Like, so it's not as like, it's really hard to duplicate something that isn't systemized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're planning on opening 2 or 3, like really having your dials dialed in for the sake of your next, I think Coffee Republic's a great example. Like, they're already looking at stand number 2, you know what I mean? But it's the lessons learned in stand number 1 and standardized systems that you're going to roll into stand number 2. If it's just a hobby and something you're doing off to the side, like, it's really difficult to replicate because everything feels really eclectic. Like, it's just a collection of a bunch of different ideas. And then and we experienced this even as we grew, multiple locations past a dozen, like being really careful to not allow the stores to take on too much of the manager's personality, because then if you put in a barista shifting around from different locations, like, it's really hard for continuity, even for your people to be able to provide the same experience, so we really had to work on what are the workflows and making sure everything is moving the same direction, so that people didn't show up at, like, I know for us, like a Southridge, where it was like the settings were everything was all different. It was a different flow altogether. So then you put somebody up there from one of the other stores, and it didn't work the same. And it was hard for continuity, even in your baristas.
Yep.
But Drew, like, so, I mean, next on the docket, like, I feel like we're following the exciting life of Drew. Like,
We're all living vicariously through Drew.
So Drew, at the end of this month, beginning of next, you're going to be heading down to Belize.
Sir, I better start, working on my English so that I can.
Oh man, but we're excited about that one. Our first, like, kickoff in someplace totally different, a totally different culture, totally different place. Same mindset. Coffee de los Mayas down there, working for American tourists. So we're meeting the same clientele, but in a different landscape. And I think that's going to be interesting and new, and all the same things you've been doing up at Coffee Republic up in Great Falls, Montana, of finding your employees, and then training those people and doing a soft opening and then a grand opening. And this one here it's a little bit different than our standard of drive-throughs. This is a walk-up, but we're treating it like a drive-through, right? As far as, it's not cafe seating, it's simply like walk up, grab your drink, keep on moving. Like, that's what we're trying to do, for the sake of not departing too far away from the drive-through model. We obviously believe very strongly in the drive-through model. So you excited about that? How you feeling about that?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I get a little more nervous every day that it gets closer, just because it's so far away, and I mean, I can do coffee culture in America all day, and I can try to take my coffee culture down to Belize with me, but really it's going to be touch and go as far as meeting the locals and going out to local service industry areas and meeting the people that actually work in the area and getting to know, the people I'm going to be working with. So obviously the culture is going to be a little bit different than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
But coffee is coffee. So, and we're going to be doing a lot of, the same oriented coffee that we do up here, because we know it works, and we know the quality is solid. So I'm feeling really good. Another thing I'm feeling good about is knowing the competition down there is basically non-existent, and even as far as standards go. So what we do up here is years ahead of what is possible down there right now. So as far as the way the bar is set up, as far as the way that the machines that we're using, the type of recipes we're using, the relationships we're building with different representatives down in South America, those are all things that are normal here, and things that aren't quite happening down there yet. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to get started. I'm excited to go, sit on the beach and tan occasionally. Whenever I so feel like it, I'll be like, oh, we can be closed today. This is a sunny day. I gotta go tan.
That's not American standard. That's not American standards, bro. We're talking 365 days a week, 7 days a week, right? Like, yeah, we're open every day, even including Christmas. Isn't that the standard we run by?
You're right. You're right. It's Belize standards. I don't know. I'm already trying to adopt the culture. I don't
I get it. We want to be culturally sensitive. We want to be culturally sensitive.
That's right.
Oh man, well, that's awesome. I think that I thought I could show you guys a little bit. So I've got some pictures I'm going to take us through, but I thought what was really cool about it, because I was just down there as well, establishing relationships, and you're in the crib of coffee, right? Like Honduras, Guatemala, all that stuff is right there, all borders Belize, which means that beans are really cheap, right? You're not paying American rates to get them across the border, right? Like it's all staying within that same domain, which drops down your prices there. But it also means you get to build some really cool relationships. So I thought I'd show you guys, take you on a little field trip of the coffee farm that they're
Nice.
partnering with down there, because it's like so I flew in like on a little private plane, got to take the tour of the place, and it's so awesome to be in league with exactly who's going to be providing your beans and know exactly where it's coming from, and not have it to be some weird like connection that it's like 3 times removed and then have a supply chain issue. It's like, no. I saw where the beans are being grown. I saw how the beans are being parsed. You know what I mean? I saw how they're being dried. I saw how they're going into the roaster. I saw where they're being packaged, and I saw where they're going to come to the shop, which was so badass. So I thought I'd take you guys on a little tour real quick.
Yeah, you can't really have supply chain issues if you could just drive over there in a truck and pick your stuff up.
They're like, sorry, the beans haven't come in. You're like, off the bush? Like, what are we talking about? Because I saw where they're at. So I'm going to hope this doesn't load our times too bad. But this is me. This is the farm, a picture of the farm on the plane.
Did you get to fly the plane too?
Come on, bro. No, I almost barfed on the plane.
Wow.
Anyway, just a beautiful spot.
Reminds me of Costa Rica.
That's next. Cave de los Mayas too.
Right? That's where we're going. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that was pretty cool. And then this was the actual spot. Not there because that's Montana. That's where Drew's at now. So this was, this is where they're housing all their beans. This is where it's coming straight off there. You can see this is the processing side of it, where they're actually, this lady, I don't know if you can tell there, she's splitting up the beans by hand. As far as like the good beans from the bad beans, everything's super
Wow.
high quality. And then these are the roasters. They've got the roasters going every day, a couple of them. And then obviously, as we saw over here, batching those out into bags that are going to go to, where we pick them up. And so it was just a cool experience, and something so different than, we've done. I know back in the day we sent Cody down and he met some roasters about some places, but even then it was with Atlas, so it's like Atlas's roasters that are doing, and even then it's, so you're a couple times removed, and then you walk into the Starbucks, and they're like, we work with local growers that are doing but you're like, but do you, and how much are we really doing? It's so cool. It was so cool to be on the ground, to drive through these shaded areas where they're growing beans, and just to see them process through, and sent us back with some samples. And Drew's going to be doing some profiles and creating the espresso blend, of like what are the mixture of beans, how is that going to work, what are the ratios that are going to work best with our drink samplings, and what we want them to taste like. So it was a pretty awesome experience. So Drew, I'm excited for you to get down there and help those guys. I think it's a total new thing for the Collab team, total cool new thing for the coffee expert side of us. So I'm excited about that for sure.
I'm excited too. I'm pretty jealous that you got to go do all this stuff. I hope that they make it round 2 for me.
They said they would. They said they'd make a round 2, and I submitted all your questions to the farm. I'm like, hey, here's what Drew wants to know, and what are you going to be able to do, and how's it all going to work? But I think too, I'm just excited about some of the cool things I think we're going to be able to do down there. Like you said, Drew, like there is other coffee down there. It's not like, right, we're not doing rocket science. Like this isn't like there are other great coffee shops down there. They just lean into things a little bit different than we lean into things. They do coffee a little bit different, so there's a sit down cafe just up the way from us, but they do food, and they have a full extended menu and a complete kitchen. And I just think that's not our jam. Like our jam is speed, strength, what are our 3? Service, right? Service, speed, strength, right? Like that, just knocking it straight off of like what we've seen work, and part of that is we want your cup out to you within like 1 to 2 minute car times, 1 to 2 minute wait times to get your drink. And there's nothing like that there, like, so tapping into the local travel agencies, tapping into the, local hotels sending, Americans there. I think we're pretty excited about the business model of Coffee de los Mayas and rolling that out. So Drew's gonna be there 2 months, right, Drew? October and November.
2 months, maybe 3. We'll see. Maybe a year.
Maybe I'll come back. Maybe I won't come back. I know what December feels like in the Tri-Cities. I may not be coming back that month.
I'll wait till like spring.
Oh man. So do you have stacks of free cards printed out to hand out to all the businesses down there and all the hotels to give out to their guests and all that?
Yep. Yeah. So we printed those all out and got that all printed for them. And then we've got also just some cool things I think that we could do with co-branding with them, with the different hotels for them to offer. So it made it look like they were being generous when really it was on our dime, but in that the benefit being, that they're going to hand them out more willingly, and make sure they're with every new guest coming in and just doing some cool stuff.
That's great.
So pretty exciting stuff, guys. Coffee Experts is I'm pretty pumped at where we're at. Still working with some great folks that have some grand openings coming up in the spring too. So Drew, you can't be gone too long, like there are people that have got big things coming. And I think they want to bring you around round 2 back to Montana next summer is my understanding.
I better buy a truck.
Yes. Oh, man. Anyway, guys, thanks for hanging out for another Coffee Experts Q&A. It's always good to see you guys. I think we're going to be back to interviews next week. So tune in next week to see us interview some other great experts out there doing coffee. And we'll keep you in tuned as Drew gets down to Coffee de los Mayas. He can take us on maybe some live tours around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All righty, guys. We'll see you next week.
See you guys.